Greetings, YouTube. Recently I found myself discussing my friend Elfwine here on my channel. I actually got his title incorrect. It was Sir Earl Elfwine Dundane. And he had been an active member of the Society for Creative Anachronism here in the state of New Hampshire, which is known as the Barony of Stonemarch. One of the rare groups that was actually built together of three different smaller groups that combined themselves to form a barony. And the group is still active. I'm not active in it any longer. I have a busy schedule as it is, and my interests have shifted over the years. But I try to keep in contact, and I still know many people in the barony. Some of the people that I knew when I was active are still involved intimately with the running of the barony. And I consider my friendship with my friend Elfwine to be one of the greatest gifts that my time in the SCA ever gave me. He was one of the most profoundly special people I have ever known. He was a knight in society. He had been king. He was a husband, a father, a graduate of MIT. He was just a really wonderful, interesting, eccentric man. And if I remember, I will include a picture of him at the end of this video. I hope I remember. In fact, when he was king, someone struck some coin. Let me see if I can get that coin in there. Well, it's probably about as good as I'm going to get. It's hard to see it, but that's actually his little face on there. And this is an actual silver coin. And Elfwine had been showing them to a bunch of people because he had a bag of them that had been gifted to him by the person that made them. And I looked at him and I said, well, how do you go about getting one of these? Figuring I could contact the maker, figuring you went to this much trouble to make the coin. You didn't just throw away the die. You know, you could strike me another one. And he looked at me with a little strange look on his face, like, why would you want a coin from my realm? And then he handed me one. And this one. And I always considered that a great present from him, besides the memories. He, like I said, was a father. And at one time, his youngest child, who was, I believe, in kindergarten at the time, and had some developmental challenges. Interestingly, his oldest child was a bona fide genius, missing one question on her SATs and being offered an admission to MIT, I believe, at 14 and delayed till 15. You know, just because she felt like it. She used to do calculus for fun. I never quite grasped that. But his child was in school, and he got a phone call from his daughter's school one day, and the teacher was a little concerned. You know, no parent's excited about getting a call from their children's school. And it seemed that the teacher was upset or concerned because his daughter thought he was king. And she was very adamant in this belief that her father was king. And so the mother was a little concerned and said, you know, could you come in and I'd like to talk to you about this? And he said, certainly, no problem. And at the time, Elfwine was king of the Eastern Kingdom in the Society for Creative Anachronism. And you become king in the SCA through right of arms. You fight in real armor using rattan weapons, and it's a form of martial arts, of an honor system where you strike a person. If they have hit you hard enough to disabled you, you declare that you've been wounded or killed. And he won the right through battle to be king. And so he put the call out to all his friends and followers. And the next day, he and 30 of his compatriots marched on the school in full regalia and introduced that Elfwine Dundane Rex was here to speak to the teacher of his daughter. They shut the school down and had an impromptu demonstration about the SCA. Years later, I was at an event, actually, and Elfwine himself had told me the story of his daughter. But years later, I was in an event, and I was the PR person, so I was always busy talking to new people or people who were fairly new, or strangers that walk in and say, "What is going on at this event where there's 100 people all in period garb, walking around with swords and armor and banners and things that confuse the general public?" And I'm all at this event. I heard someone telling a story, so I stopped and I listened to it because who doesn't love a good story? And it was someone telling the story of a child informing their teacher that their father was king. Except the person telling the story didn't know Elfwine, didn't know the details, didn't know what had taken place in the state that he was standing in. It had become a legend. It had become part of our mythology. And I think in that moment I loved Elfwine even more, because he'd become the stuff of legends. Years later, Elfwine got sick. He got leukemia. A rarity in an adult, but it does happen. And he never really recovered. And his wife lost a husband, his children lost a father, the society lost one of its greatest members, and humanity lost one of its greatest companions. I loved him. He was the kind of person you could go to and you had any kind of crafting problem. He knew how to fix it. He used to carry a little pouch. I guess at one point it had been a fanny pack, but he'd modified it over the years and carried it in front. And there was always a tool in there that would fix anything you had busted. He could start a fire faster with flint and steel than I could with a match. He was a very handy fellow to have around. He was always the kind of person I knew that if the world were to come to an end, he'd be the first guy I sought out. Because no matter what happened, he'd survive. And it wasn't until cancer came around that something finally faced him he couldn't beat. But he was a great man. And I loved him. And I'll never ever forget him. Miss you, Elfwine.